And I'll be brief. First of all, to the gentleman that's dying for attention, someone needs to inform him that there is no gun ban currently. But because of the work that we're doing here today, we will make your sign legitimate shortly. So you hang on to that.
To just talk about these mayors all over the country, like Mike Martinez, the mayor pro tem, who says we will ban your guns once we get them registered. And he works for Bloomberg openly. He heads that up in Texas. Imagine the yuppies listening to me right now and the so-called trendies and people. Do you morons really want to be like Chicago, with a crime rate the highest in the world because they've taken the guns? Do you really want to try to confiscate my guns? You're like, oh, we're not going to do that. Come on, Alex.
Nobody's trying to take your toys.
They haven't taken the guns?
Assault weapons.
Ban assault weapons.
They're not trying.
Says right here.
Wait.
That's all Simeona.
Shut up.
Nobody wants your guns. Nobody wants my guns in New York, in D.C., in Chicago. Everywhere you people get in control, you ban them.
Councilman Martinez needs to focus his attention on relieving traffic off of I-35 and keep his hands off of our Second Amendment rights.
There you go. That's the way you beat them, isn't it?
That's absolutely.
All politics is ultimately local, and we haven't really understood that very well in the Liberty Movement, have we?
No, sir, we have not. And I'm glad you brought up the Ebola situation because, like the CDC, what they should have done in that incident there, they should have actually sent a team from Atlanta to that hospital to handle that situation.
Absolutely. And we're going to be right back with Mike Cargill. We're going to talk about how politics is local. Stay with us. We'll be right back. I am joined by Michael Cargill, who's running for town council here in Austin. But it's a story that has applications to wherever you are. You know, many times we overlook the obvious, simple things that we can do looking for some kind of a miracle solution. And one of the ways is with your health care. You know, it's time to get prepared with Survival Shield X2 from InfoWars Life. I take it every day. Secure yours at InfoWarsLife.com and store it in your preparedness pack or your home cabinet. Really, your own health and your immune system being optimized is one of the most effective ways that you're going to be able to survive, regardless of whether it's Ebola or MERS or SARS or whatever you're going to come in contact with. If you're in top physical condition, you're going to be able to weather the storm better than any miracle drug is going to do for you. You can't isolate yourself fully, but what you can do to prepare right now, since there is no cure for many of these diseases that we're faced with, since the vaccines themselves are dangerous, one of the best things you can do is to prepare your immune system and your health with something like Survival Shield X2. A few drops and you'll receive a powerful dose of key nascent iodine instead of drinking excessive amounts of bad-tasting iodine. Iodine is essential for health. There are many things that you can take, and that's one of the key things, though, that's going to keep your immune system and your body in tip-top shape. Well, Michael, we're talking about the movement that we've seen from Bloomberg and from Bill Gates at a national level. These are guys who have a national agenda, but they understand that in order to get their gun control agenda, for example, enacted, they're going to have to affect local races. So they're pouring a lot of money into local races, even against pro-gun Democrats. If you look at the spending that Michael Bloomberg's Independence USA PAC has put in, he's put in out of about $5 million, he's put in 27% of that has been against Democrats who support gun ownership. He's put in 41% of it in favor of Republicans who are against our Second Amendment rights. So it can run the other way. So when you look at that, the bulk of the money that he's putting in, almost 70% is for pro-gun Democrats and anti-gun Republicans.
Absolutely. And they're doing this all around the country. They're not doing this in Texas. They're doing it everywhere. Bloomberg has actually come out and he said, hey, I have millions and I'm going to spend those millions to affect, the different elections around the country. New York, they want to bring all those ideas that they have in New York, to your state and your neighborhood.
Yes.
But we're trying to push back and we're saying, no, we're going to fight. We don't have that kind of money, but we're going to fight and stand up because this is something that, all of the leaders or local leaders down on that ballot believe in. And we tried to encourage people, when those big elections come around, that governor's race, that presidential race, please go all the way down the ballot and support the people that are on the bottom of the ballot.
That's right.
You have, like, for instance, your county sheriff. That person is very important. That person is going to be the first person that's going to stand in front of you and say, hey, when the feds come and knocking, they can actually stop it and kick them out of the county. And we've seen that in California, where, you have your different sheriffs stand up and say, hey, I want the FBI out of my county. I'm going to handle this my way.
Absolutely.
It's happened here in Texas as well.
And we saw that happen in Milwaukee. Sheriff Dave Clark. That's why Bloomberg targeted him with $150,000 that he spent against David Clark. It was $500,000 in that local sheriff primary. Of course, there wasn't any Republican running, so that really was the election. But still, $500,000, and that was outside money being spent against him. He won. He said, you're not going to be able to buy this election. But he had a very loyal constituency, I think, because he had been honest with them. He had told them, look, we're going to do everything we can to protect you. We're going to come after these guys after the fact. But while it's going on, a cop can't be everywhere. They can't be at your door when your door gets kicked in by a home invasion. So it's important, he said, to be armed as well as to understand how to safely use a firearm. That's something that you do in your business. You not only sell firearms, but you also do training.
Absolutely. We do a lot of training. We teach people how to draw that firearm when they need to. Law enforcement is not going to always be there. And different little situations we've seen around the country. We've seen it takes, law enforcement anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes to arrive on the scene after the first shots are fired. So, who's going to be that person that's going to help you and save you, get you out of that building, out of that room, or out of that situation? That's going to be yourself. And law enforcement cannot be everywhere.
But they can be an effective backstop against federal intrusions, as you pointed out, with the sheriff especially. But it goes for a lot of the different offices. As the liberals know, we've heard from them over and over again, think globally, act locally. In other words, they have a global agenda. They have a national agenda, whether it's gun control or whether it's some other aspects. They have that agenda that they've created. They're using this same tactic all over the country. And yet they know that it's going to have to be implemented at the local level. But unfortunately, so often we put all of our attention on just the highest level offices, like you mentioned before, for governor or for president. I remember when I was involved with the Libertarian Party back in North Carolina, in order to get ballot access and to retain that, we had to get a fairly high percentage. I think it was 10% of the vote for president or for governor. Now, that's almost impossible to do, but it makes you focus all your resources on that high-profile race rather than looking downstream to see what else is going, because when you get someone in who performs an effective backstop against invasions of your personal liberties, that person can also do other things locally that are going to help your quality of life.
Absolutely. And we've seen a lot of times where some of those elections down at the bottom of the ballot takes, 3 or 4 votes for the that election is decided. There's a state representative that was elected into office by a difference of 4 votes. You know, and you're talking one household could have made a difference in that election. And some people don't go all the way down. They don't continue on. In your city council races, a lot of that stuff is nonpartisan. So people go out and they hit that one button. I'm going to vote straight Democrat. I'm going to vote straight Republican. They don't pick and choose, and look at the individual. I encourage people to look at the individuals and vote for the person, not for the party.
And that's very important, as we saw in Jakari's report a little over a year ago when we had Mike Martinez at that gun control rally. Somebody was holding a stop the gun ban. He says, we're not going to do that, but hang on to that sign because we're going to make your sign come true. In other words, we are going to ban guns. That was an amazing admission. And here's this from a guy who's just a town councilman, but he has a lot of power to help make that happen. And now he's moving to the next level. He's moving to the level of running for mayor of Austin. And so that's why we need to get people who respect individual liberty in at the local level. And one of the things that you mentioned when you spoke against that at the time was you said he needs to understand these are fundamental rights we have in the Constitution, and he needs to pay attention to the traffic flow area in this area.
Exactly, because traffic is our main problem here.
Yeah.
But, your city council members and those people in those positions are going to be the ones that make that decision when something happens on the national level. Something happens on that national level where they're going to come down and they're going to say, okay, well, we need to now confine everyone into this area, do these things or do this or do that. Those people are going to be the key people to make those decisions.
Because it's going to be done in an incremental regulatory way. In other words, we have these fundamental rights, but they're always looking for ways to turn them into privileges that they can then use to infringe. And that's why the Second Amendment said you won't infringe on this. They knew that it was going to be a gradual process of taking away our rights by moving the boundaries in on the edges. And that's essentially what it is with these infringements that they're doing. And the way they enact that is at the local level.
Right. And I always remind people that if one thing you need to remember, I hope those chains rest lightly on your wrist if you do not come out to vote.
Yes, absolutely. We're talking to Michael Cargill, who's running for town council here in Austin. But again, this is something that is going to affect you wherever you are. Many times, you've got about a week or so before the final election deadline. You need to look at your ballot and look down the ballot and see what these people stand for that are going to be your town councilmen, your mayors, because that's where you're going to see a lot of infringement on your freedom or a defense of your freedom. We're going to be right back, and we're going to talk about this shooting in California where it was an illegal alien deported twice. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Michael Cargill. In studio with Michael Cargill. You're out of Austin. He is actually running for city council. We're highlighting the idea that you need to be involved locally. You need to understand what your local candidates are doing, not just what's going on with the governor's race or with the presidential race or with the congressional race, because some of your most effective bulwarks against tyranny are going to be at the local level. Now, as we mentioned earlier, it was a sheriff's race that Bloomberg got involved in, trying to shut down pro-Second Amendment Sheriff David Clark in Milwaukee. Spent $150,000. That race was incredibly expensive for a sheriff's race, $500,000 of outside money being spent. But of course, Bloomberg's PAC has focused primarily on congressional races. If we look at some of the things that they've done, they spent $3.3 million to help a Democratic challenger, Gloria McLeod, upset a longtime Democrat, Joe Baca, in California's 35th congressional district. $3.3 million. He can just come in, as he did in a couple of years ago, $15 million that he pulled in just in the last couple of weeks, because this guy has billions of dollars. And of course, we see Bill Gates doing the same thing in Washington state right now. They have a anti-gun control amendment there that's going on. But a lot of this is being targeted towards Democrats who are pro-gun and supporting Republicans who are anti-Second Amendment. That's one of the things that I found interesting about this, Mike.
Oh, yeah. And, it's the city council and also, those people that lower ballot there. What we try to do is we try to support small businesses. You have a lot of different companies like Uber and Lyft that are trying to get off the ground. And you have, the people that are in the city and the county level that actually are slowing that progress down. Mm-hmm. And those people are the ones that, are going to, make a change, make a difference. We need to support small businesses. And that's going to make the city, your county, it's going to make it grow. It's going to provide jobs for you.
Let's play this quote from Hillary Clinton. I want to get your reaction to this, where she said that businesses don't create jobs. Play that clip, guys.
Don't let anybody tell you that, it's corporations and businesses that create jobs. That old theory, trickle-down economics. That has been tried. That has failed.
I think the problem is that they didn't trickle enough on us. I think they most of her friends keep all the money. They don't even trickle on us.
Right. I started my business out of my living room.
Yeah.
I didn't need anyone else's help. I didn't need any assistance or anything like that. Started it from scratch, from zero zilch, and built it up to the business that it is now. And
your goal was not to create jobs, but it turned out to be what you had to do in order to grow your business. You had to create jobs.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
What you're trying to do is you're trying to create a product. You're trying to create a service. You're putting your hard-earned money in, as well as your labor, to build it. But we hear from Hillary Clinton the same thing that we hear from Barack Obama, that you didn't build this, that businesses don't create jobs.
And what some of them can do is they can prevent people from creating jobs. They can prevent, expansion.
Yes.
So we need to get people in there that will remove some of those roadblocks.
Yes.
Remove some of the structure, trying to prevent people from actually getting permits and things of that nature. And so we need to, kind of help our small business people, and that way they can grow and flourish.
Absolutely. Basically, government is there as an inhibitor of job creation. And so what they can do is they can basically get out of the way to allow people to do that. And of course, it is the small businesses that we see the most job creation come from. It's not the politically connected crony capitalists that have their way with the Hillary Clintons and the Harry Reids and the Nancy Pelosi and the George Bushes. It's not those people that we see creating the most jobs. It's actually the small local businesses. That's why, just as you try to do business with local businesses to try to help your community, that's why you need to be involved in what's going on down ticket on the races that are not so high profile. That's why we're talking to Michael Cargill here. Now, one of the other things that comes up, of course, you mentioned the importance of a sheriff in terms of protecting your rights. I just went to a forum within the last week here on secure communities. Now, that is the program that was created by Bush as well as by Obama administration, where a sheriff, if they pick an illegal alien up after they've arrested them and they're holding them, they will report it to ICE and hold them for up to 48 hours so that ICE can take a look at their background. Now, what they were doing in this community meeting, they were coming down hard on the sheriff, who is a Democrat, telling him, hey, if you're going to send information about illegal aliens who've committed crime to ICE, you're in the wrong party. You need to get out of this party. You shouldn't be doing that. And yet we see that this California cop killer who killed 2 cops over the weekend, this was somebody who has been deported on multiple times. I don't even see that the deportation is effective as long as we've got such open borders. But it was our city council talking about the importance of elections, okay? This is whether or not this is going to happen in our community comes down to the sheriff, who at this point is standing against the city council, who is telling him, don't tell ICE if you pick somebody up that has violated the law that's an illegal alien.
And that's why that county official is very important, because that person is going to allow ICE to come in and say, hey, let's take a look at this guy's records, okay, and let's go ahead and hold him because he's been here, several times. He's gone back, come over, gone back, come over, and he's committed crimes. The particular case that you're talking about, that county official, he's going to be facing some very hard times when it's time for his reelection.
Well, let's hope so. I don't know that people are aware of this, and the activists are really kind of lined up on the, you shouldn't be telling ICE that somebody is here illegally.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
They should. They really should. These people need to go. What about Sergeant Tamarisi? This guy is in Mexico. He made a mistake, made a wrong turn. Now he's held in Mexico because he had his personal firearms inside of his vehicle, and now they won't let him go. The president needs to make that call and get Sergeant Tamarisi released immediately. Yeah,
Mexico has one standard, but we're supposed to have a completely different standard. We're supposed to not patrol our borders. We're supposed to let everyone in, whether or not they're sick. Remember when they had the cruise ship, we had the lab technician from Dallas do a self-quarantine. She didn't have it, but she heard that they had been lax on the quarantine issues, and so she wanted to declare that she had been working there when she did and put herself in quarantine. Belize wouldn't take her. Mexico wouldn't take her. They had to ship the entire cruise ship back to Texas. Every other country in the world patrols their border to make sure that people are not bringing a pandemic into their country. We used to do that at Ellis Island. They used to inspect people to make sure that they weren't sick as they were coming into the country. We also have a right to know whether somebody has a criminal background when they're coming into our country. And yet with the open borders policy that we see, and we're going to really see that accelerate after the election. That's why it's very important for us to have in place patriots who are going to have the backbone to stand up to this. And a lot of that is going to happen at the local level.
Right. We need to make this president a lame duck president so that he does not have any power to do anything his last few years. Because if we allow some of the people down on that ballot to get elected that are not looking out for our best interest, then we're going to have problems with people crossing over the border. We're going to have problems with Ebola. We're going to have problems with our crime. Our crime is going to increase just like we saw in that incident right there with that school shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, twice kicked out of the country, twice, and now he's killed the police officer. I want someone to explain that to me.
He actually killed 2 police officers. This was a guy who had been sent out. He was arrested and convicted in Arizona for narcotics possession in 1997. And then he was later arrested and sent back to Mexico again in 2001. One of the things that I heard, so that second deportation was simply because he was here illegally or had prior convictions. One of the things that I heard in this meeting against secure communities was you shouldn't send somebody back just because they're only here illegally. Okay, that's what they're telling the sheriff, and that's what they're saying, you know, you're in the wrong party. And it's like, we need to understand where people are. And we need to understand, too, that in the case of this sheriff, I don't know what else he stands for, and I'm not endorsing him, but at least on this issue, he's a Democrat fighting his own party. And we need to understand that this isn't something that you can simply do by voting a partisan checklist. You need to understand where these people are on the issues that are important as you go down the ballot.
And the majority of your county officials, these sheriffs that are participating in this program, what they're doing is they're saying, hey, this person here has committed multiple crimes. This person has 3 DWIs. This person has actually been charged or convicted of a sex offender with a minor, sex with a minor. So we're talking major offenses here. We're not talking about a traffic ticket. We're not talking about running a stop sign. We're not talking about a Class C misdemeanor. We're talking about Class B, A's, and felonies. They need to go. We don't need to have that riffraff in our country.
That's right. It's a very dangerous thing to have that. Well, we're talking to Michael Cargill, who is running for town council here in Austin. What's your website address that they can find out about you, Mike?
It's cargillfortexas.com. That's Cargill, F-O-R, Texas.com.
Very important that you look at what the people down ticket stand for in your location. This is something that we're only going to win if we get involved and understand what is happening at the local level. And don't underestimate the importance of the sheriff, of the city council in protecting your freedoms, as well as just in doing the right things, making sure that traffic is flowing the right way, the things that government should do. Instead, we have people who are coming after your freedom. We'll be back tomorrow, 11 Central. Join us then on The Alex Jones Show.